Welcome everyone on today's Metal3 Community meeting. My name is Adam Rosman. I will be your host today. Today is 9th of August 2023. We don't have any new members, so there is no need for introductions. Please note that the meeting is recorded. And let's continue. So we have the regular reminders. Feel free to check them. No need to go into details about them. And then we have 2 PR review requests that are pending for some times now. And let's just see. So that's the Vivan Betavam API proposal. I think the discussion is now between Dimitri and Zane. So no one else has joined. And then the other one is from Javad related to the fuzzing. And this now actually needs to be rebased Javad. So I don't know if you are in the meeting. No, then I might ping Javad here because I think this needs a rebase. And also that this is a good comment from Dimitri here. So these are the two review requests. Please take a look. And as I see today, neither Hui nor Mohammed is available, so we can skip the scalability working group update. As far as I heard, they are still fixing up a few things as a response to the comments. So we can continue to the discussion topics. By the way, before I would continue, is there any questions or comments related to the reminders or the reoccurring PR review requests or to the scalability group? Okay, if nothing, then we can continue. So I have seen that there were no topics on the agenda, so I just added a few things that I was working on recently or started upstreaming. So I basically worked on 3 different things, few minor reorganization in Dev and in the ironic image, but those were just to prepare the scene for new features or development options related to the iPixie and the basic authentication for user images. So let's see then. This was one such fix, which most likely affects the upstream ironic community because I mean, not in the wrong way, hopefully, just that I changed a few things related to the local image building, and we discussed with Ricardo that it has to be tested in the upstream just to avoid some sort of issue that I have not planned for. So this is related to IPA and local container image building. It was a bit messed up because we were, even when we had local images, we were pushing into the registry, into the local registry, the upstream registry images. So there were a mix of locally built and non-locally built images there. So this tries to fix that, and also the IPA build, the use of local IPA was not that nicely structured. There were duplications because the BMO also builds or also copies the local IPA, and then we also did the same or actually I have to state it differently. So we were pulling the non-local, the remote upstream IPA, both in the devenv and in the BMO in case when we wanted to use that, but in the other way around, when we needed the locally built IPA, we were sometimes incorrectly combining that with the upstream IPA. So there was a lot of weird stuff going on with that. So I tried to fix that a bit. So now the use of the local IPA is simplified. So the devenv never pulls by itself the upstream IPA. It's only the BMO deploy script and the BMO run local that will handle the IPA download. And in case a local IPA is needed, then the devenv can handle it on its own, and it can disable the same logic in the run local of the BMO. So there are no duplications of copying the IPA twice in either of the cases. And then a few additional checks were added to not download the repos if not necessary, and also if there is a mismatch for the 4 core repositories between the repo used to build the image and the repo that is used to generate the manifests, then that can be detected, and then the test fails. And yeah, this is basically that. And it's all documented in the commit message and in the PR. That's one. Then that is, I see there is an upstream test already. Thank you, Ricardo.
Yeah, actually, thanks for that change in Metal3 devenv. That's really great. I had only a brief look, but it looks okay, except for that little change that scared me before. But yeah, if the run on the upstream ironic CI goes well, I don't see any problem in approving that. Thank you again.
Yeah, thanks. Sounds good. There is an other preparatory stuff that happened on the ironic image. This was again just a few things that I noticed while working on other stuff. And I see that I'm now receiving new reviews from Dimitri. I will address those also, but the basic idea here was to kind of remove unused stuff, restructure a bit how the HTTPD is used. I have been, actually Tumo have already mentioned to me that there are a few options that in the default HTTP config file could be more configurable. And I completely agree that there are a few things that should be a bit more closely controlled. And I assume a few of the comments will relate to that. So one thing that I have already learned, that we have this enable send file on, that this is not a, how to say, like not a very minor configuration option, because this can cause certain file reading or file writing, or so, like a type of IO error, depending on where the the storage is located. So if it's on some sort of network attached storage or some other weird storage, then this actually could cause problems, because the underlying file system, if I understand correctly, has to support a type of operation when the stuff when the reading and the sending is not separated, just but instead it's done with one buffer and whatnot. So this I will turn into a configurable option in the future. Related to this comment that it's just the defaults. Well, I left everything the same as the default in the original default file, because we have not changed them with the previous logic either. So if it's not needed, if you think it's not needed, I can for sure remove these. I just didn't remove anything that was not removed from the original one. Yeah. So that is one thing. So the HTTP, the core configuration or default config has been changed. It's now using these Jinja templates instead of the sed commands. But of course we can tune this file further. I agree with these comments that Dimitri put here. And then what else is here that's worth mentioning? Maybe that both here in the default config and in the vmedia config, the access to the directories, to the file system is more restrictive now. In the past, I actually noticed that we were able to access both the HTTP file through the HTTP server and also the FTP directory. So now that's restricted, or should be at least. And I did the same for the vmedia. So in case of vmedia, as I understand, it's only this redfish/ilo which should be accessible and nothing else. And then I also introduced this serve node images variable, because we run the HTTPD server. For example, when we run it as a proxy, it might not necessarily to actually serve these HTTP images, or there might be some use case when it's not necessarily to serve these images. By default, it does. But from now on, the users can decide whether they want to actually host the images or not. Yeah, so these are the two preparatory changes. And then these were necessary because I started introducing something new, which is this iPXE firmware building. And I already used it in tests on my local environments, but I'm still trying to align it with the CI and everything here. What to mention about this? So the first change or PR that should go in is this introduction of custom iPXE firmware support into the Ironic image. It introduces a lot of things. Previously, with our MetaCube Ironic image, by default, there was no possibility to build an iPXE image on the fly and then use the iPXE image to boot the IPA and because we didn't even have the ways to build it. We also didn't have the ways to enable TLS or IPv6 in the PXE process. So this is now possible with this change. And this introduces a lot of things. So you can just read the key points. I won't go through all of these. Basically, we have a new building script that can build the firmware, and it can put the firmware into the shared directory, and then we can use it. It supports the ironic use case that we have to generate different IPC configs for each instance, each node. So that is also supported. You can embed a custom IPC script into your firmware, so you can do whatever like HTTP calls or whatever from that, but by default it's just used to break the chain loading. Yeah, a lot of things. So if you are interested, please read and please check the changes. And to support this, I had to add some additional components or additional logic a little bit into the BMO. It's just very, very small stuff, basically just mounting the certificates that are used for the TLS-enabled firmware build. And similarly in the devenv, here we actually generate the certificates as for everything else. And also just initiate this whole building process, because the script in the ironic image can do different sort of builds. So it can build from cache, or it can build from directly from a remote repo. So it can pull the firmware source by default by itself. But in the devenv, I wrote a little wrapper that makes it possible to pre-pull the cache for the ironic image, so you don't have to pull it in the ironic image. And also just other like auxiliary stuff that makes it possible to configure it from the devenv. Yeah, so that's it. So two of these, or three different topics. Two is just this reorganization, and the other is the PXE stuff. I'm not sure when this will be merged, because the CI is a bit finicky, and I sometimes find that my changes also need some tuning to work with the CI. But yeah, that's all from my side. It took a bit longer than I expected. Is there any questions related to the PXE or related to the reorganization or any other discussion topics? Any suggestions, problems, any questions, anything that you want to bring up? Well, if nothing, then it looks like this week we don't have any other topics. In the coming 2 to 3 weeks, I won't be around. I'm going on vacation, so I will ask others to facilitate, but the meeting should proceed as usual. So yeah, that's all from me. And if there's nothing else, then have a nice rest of the day and week, and see you on, or have fun on the next meeting. Bye.
Bye. Have a nice day.
Thank you, Ado.